Making headlines this hour, Vice President Abdul Jihad inaugurates Season 2 of Maldivian Idol. Environment Minister Tariq Ibrahim visits Mandu Island and Femfushi Island of Alif Dal Atoll. And protests continue across the US after President Donald Trump's first full week in office is packed with a series of executive actions.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to News in English here on TVM. With me, Hafiz Abdul Sattar. And now the news in detail. Vice President Abdullah Jihad inaugurates Season 2 of Maldivian Idol at an event held at Ashwek Cinema to premiere the show.
After a hugely successful first season, public service media PSM premiered the second season of Maldivian Idol at an event held in Ashwek Cinema last night. The Season 2 of Maldivian Idol was inaugurated by the Vice President of the Maldives, Abdullah Jihad. The Vice President was accompanied at the event by the Managing Director of PSM, Ibrahim Halil, as well as senior officials of the company and the government. The franchise TV show by PSM aims to showcase young talent while enhancing opportunities for commerce through sponsorship opportunities, contributing to two key areas of focus for the current administration. Participants for the show have been selected from auditions held in Mala City, Ardu City, Formala City, Gang Island of Lama Atoll, Edafushi Island of Ba Atoll, and Kurdufushi Island of Hadal Atoll. Maldivian Idol Season 2 will be judged by Maria Munusha and Ibrahim Said Ali, who were also on the judging panel in the first season, and is also joined by famed musician Ismail Affan. Renowned artist Lamha Latif will join Musa Wasim, who also hosted the first season, as his co-host. Meanwhile, the first season winner of Maldivian Idol, Laisha Junaid, recently released her first video song. Maldivian Idol is the first international franchise TV show to come to the Maldives, and PSM will air the episodes of Season 2 every Friday and Saturday at 20 to 30 hours.
Minister of Environment and Energy Tariq Ibrahim visits Mandu Island and Femfushi Island of Alif Dal Atoll. The minister visited the islands as a part of his ongoing visit to Alif Dal Atoll as an envoy of President Abdullah Yameen Abdul Gayoom. During his visit to Mandu today morning, Minister Tariq met with members of the local council, Mandu School and Health Centre, and inquired about their concerns. Furthermore, the minister met with the senior officials of Femfushi Island and inquired about the development projects that could be brought to the island. During his ongoing visit to the atoll, the minister has so far visited 9 islands. The parliamentary group leader of the ruling Progressive Party of Maldives, Ahmad Nihan Hussein Manik, says that President Abdullah Yameen Abdul Gayoom is the most successful leader the country has seen. Speaking to PSM News, Nihan, who represents Wilimale constituency in the parliament, said that no other administration has carried out more development projects than President Yameen's government. Nihan said that the management and the leadership skills of the president can be seen in different aspects throughout the Maldives in the past 3 years. The parliament member also highlighted the numerous development projects the current administration has completed in the past 3 years. The Island Council of Tulustu says the work to develop the outer seawall of the newly reclaimed area of the island has been completed. The council said that they are now working on a land use plan for the newly reclaimed 33 hectares of land. According to the council, they will prioritize issuing land for residential purposes from the area. With the newly reclaimed land, Tulustu's land area has been expanded from 35 hectares to 68 hectares. The Ministry of Housing and Infrastructure also revealed that the shoreline protection aspect of the project contracted to MT Hokad have been completed. The 31.2 million rupiah project To protect the shoreline of the island, a contractor to the Danish company included the revetment work and the development of the outer seawall. The government of President Abdullah Yamin Abdul Gayoom began the project to reclaim the land of Tulustu in 2014 as part of the effort to ease land constraints. The $10 million project to reclaim the 33 hectares of land was contracted to the Netherlands-based company Boskalis International. Housing Development Corporation HDC says that the population of Hulmale will increase up to 12,000 this calendar year. Speaking to PSM News about the housing projects in Hulmale, the managing director of HDC, Mohammed Simon, said that several construction companies are contracted to develop residential flats in the area of 188 hectares. He said with the increase in the residential flats, the population of Hulmale is estimated to increase and that the government will provide the necessary facilities for the community. The managing director of HDC also revealed that 2,000 residential flats are being developed in phase 1 of Hulmale, while companies are contracted to develop another 17,000 residential flats in the second phase. He further revealed that HDC expects to complete these residential flats before the end of the next year. The population of Hulmale is currently estimated to be over 30,000. Maldives Transport and Contracting Company MTCC announced plans to bring major changes to the ferry services provided in the atolls as part of the effort to improve the service. MTCC said that the changes include the redesigning of the ferries which are currently used in the atolls. The company also said that the project to improve ferry services in the atolls will be conducted in phases. According to MTCC, their major focus will be to increase the speed of the ferries which provide service to residents in the atolls. MTCC further added that the new ferries will be made from a fiber and that the ferries will be faster and more convenient. The government has contracted MTCC to provide ferry services in 15 atolls of Maldives. In business, we have Ministry of Tourism says that permits were issued to 124 new tourism business establishments under the work carried out to expand the sector last year. According to the ministry, majority of the permits were for guest house businesses with a total of 101 permits. Furthermore, 11 permits were issued for resorts with another 11 permits issued for tourist vessels, while 1 permit was issued to develop a tourist hotel. Tourism Ministry also said that 168 business entities were registered to provide tourism-related services last year. By the end of last year, the total hotels registered to provide tourism-related services stood at 382, while the number of operating guest houses stood at 86. CEO of Berkshire Hathaway, Warren Buffett, and the founder of Microsoft Corporation, Bill Gates, tell students at Columbia University in New York that they are optimistic about the United States' future despite recent divisive election.
Bill Gates and Warren Buffett expresses optimism that the United States will move ahead as a nation, even as it works through political differences and gets used to the new administration of US President Donald Trump. The world's richest people spoke to students at Columbia University after Justice Trump undertook a series of executive orders that began to unwind the work of his predecessor, Barack Obama, prompting concern from critics about what it means for Americans and their place in the world. Gates is a co-founder and former chief executive of Microsoft Corp., while Buffett runs the conglomerate Berkshire Hathaway Inc. Forbes magazine said on Friday that Gates is worth $85.2 billion and Buffett is worth $73.9 billion. An estimated 1,300 people attended Friday's event and more than 30,000 on Facebook tuned in to watch the close friends who have known each other for a quarter century. Gates is also a Berkshire director, while Buffett is donating much of his wealth to the charitable foundation set up by Gates and his wife, Melinda. Both told students it is important to invest and focus on doing good works over the long term despite the impulse or perceived need for shorter-term thinking. Gates said this was particularly true in such areas as climate change and vaccinations, calling it just as important to be sure people can get vaccines as it is to develop them. Buffet said it's very hard to have politicians think of something that's wonderful for the country 20 years from now. He also stressed the importance of immigration, a central issue for Trump, who neither Buffet nor Gates discussed directly. Buffet added that the country has been blessed by immigrants.
Iraqi forces raised a huge national flag in the same location in Mosul that IS militants declared a caliphate 2.5 years ago. In a symbolic move after its victory in eastern Mosul, Iraq's counter-terrorism force CTS raised the Iraqi national flag to display its military strength. Top commanders of the CTS were present during the ceremony, as well as a crowd of Iraqi nationals who cheered and sang as the flag was raised. More than 2 years after militants took over Mosul and proclaimed a caliphate, Iraqi forces backed by a US-led coalition have retaken the eastern half of the city and now have the west in their sights. Major General Fadl Barwari said the flag could be seen by residents and IS fighters in the western side as a foreshadower of assaults of the battle to come. The World Food Programme WFP says it has halved the food rations it distributes to 1.4 million Iraqis displaced in the war against IS militants because of a shortfall in funding for the next 6 months of 2017.
The United Nations World Food Programme WFP says it had halved the food rations distributed to 1.4 million Iraqis displaced in the war against IS because of delays in payments of funds from donor states.
This year somehow we are receiving commitments from donors a little bit late. And we are talking with donors, but we haven't got enough money as of yet. You need a signature before the money's in the bank. You haven't got it. So we are talking to donors, and the major ones would be the US, Germany, Japan. There's a whole range of donors that do give us money.
According to the WFP spokesperson in Iraq, the 50% cuts in monthly rations is expected to affect over 1.4 million people across Iraq. Its impact is already being felt in camps east of Mosul, the northern city controlled in parts by IS. About 160,000 people have been displaced since the military campaign to recapture Mosul from the militants was launched in October. About 3 million people have been displaced from their homes in Iraq since 2014, when IS took over large areas of the country and of neighboring Syria.
Police in Agra city of India's northern Uttar Pradesh state burst an illegal arms factory and seized a huge cache of country-made arms. Inspector Raja Singh said that they had prior information that some people were making country-made pistols at the factory. He added that the mastermind of the illegal operation is on the run. According to the police, the gang supplied arms not only to Uttar Pradesh districts but was also active in Haryana and Rajasthan states. With Uttar Pradesh, the country's most popular state, is set to go to polls next month, police are on a high alert and are keeping a strict vigil. Protests continue across the U.S. after President Donald Trump's first full work week in office is packed with a series of executive actions.
Protests continue across several U.S. states after U.S. President Donald Trump's first full work week in public office, which was marked by one executive order after the next. In Minneapolis, Minnesota, protesters stood in the middle of a bridge to stop traffic, demonstrating against what has been one of the new president's controversial executive orders, his move to revive the Keystone XL oil pipeline and proceed with the Dakota pipeline project. A number of activists and members of the indigenous Native American communities have been outspoken about both pipelines, which threaten their tribal lands. Trump says the pipeline projects would create new U.S. jobs, but the project's biggest winners may be Canadian. Among the controversial orders was a new executive action on Friday, which put a 4-month hold on allowing refugees into the United States and temporarily barred travelers from Syria and 6 other Muslim-majority countries. The White House says the moves would help protect Americans from terrorist attacks. In Hartford, Connecticut, protesters gathered outside the city's legislative buildings to demand action from Governor Dannel Malloy, calling on him to push back on Trump's orders. Part of Trump's immigration plan is reportedly to do away with so-called sanctuary cities, places where immigrants go to live and work and are regarded as safe havens. Similar protests sprang up in Miami-Dade County, Florida, where protesters condemned Mayor Carlos Gimenez for wanting to fully cooperate with Trump's plan. Trump paused the entry of travelers from Syria and the 6 other nations for at least 90 days, saying his administration needed time to develop more stringent screening processes for refugees, immigrants and visitors.
U.S. House of Representatives Speaker Paul Ryan says that the United States should keep its sanctions against Russia amid speculation that President Donald Trump may lift the punitive measures imposed under former President Barack Obama. Ryan said in an interview with Politico that he thinks former President Barack Obama was late in putting them in place, so he thinks they should stay. Ryan, the top Republican in the U.S. Congress, was responding to a question about comments by Republican Senator John McCain that if Trump lifted the restrictions, he would work to codify sanctions against Russia into law. Ryan also said that he did not support Syrian President Bashar al-Assad, calling him a butcher. New commercial satellite imagery indicates North Korea has resumed operation of a reactor at its main nuclear site used to produce plutonium for its nuclear weapons program. Washington's 38 North Korea, who is monitoring the project, said that previous analysis from January 18th showed signs that North Korea was preparing to restart the reactor at Yongbyon, having previously unloaded spent fuel rods for reprocessing to produce additional plutonium for its nuclear weapons stockpile. The U.S. think tank project said it was impossible to estimate at what power level the reactor was running, although it may be considerable. North Korea has maintained its nuclear and missile programs in violation of repeated rounds of international sanctions. The World Food Programme WFP aims to feed 1.8 million Nigerians most at risk of starvation as the Boko Haram conflict continues its 8th year.
World Food Programme WFP's executive director says that Boko Haram conflict nears its 8th year. WFP is aiming to feed 1.8 million Nigerians most at risk of starvation, but insecurity threatens those hopes. The fallout from the militant insurgency has reached a point where aid groups in recent months have been warning of a crisis as lack of food, shelter and medical care threatens refugees with widespread famine and diseases. Speaking to reporters at Nigeria's capital Abuja, WFP's executive director Ertharin Cousin said WFP plans to feed 1.8 million people worst affected by malnutrition, a portion of the 4.4 million requiring food assistance in Nigeria's northeast. She said the ongoing conflict could dash those hopes as the full scale of the crisis and how many are affected still remains unknown. In January, the WFP failed to reach some 300,000 people of the 1.3 million targeted. Cousin said efforts were hampered by an increased number of attacks on marketplaces, including the bombing of an IDP camp. There have been no signs that Nigeria's government has engaged with Boko Haram, which seeks to establish an Islamic caliphate in the northeast on a political level, focusing instead on military intervention. The Boko Haram insurgency has killed more than 15,000 people since 2009 and forced some 2 million to flee their homes. The Nigerian army, backed up by neighbors, have retaken most areas held by the group. But the militant group has stepped up attacks and suicide bombings in the past few weeks as the end of the rainy season facilitates movements in the bush.
In sports, we have Arsenal manager Arsene Wenger has been given a 4-match touchline ban after admitting a Football Association FA misconduct charge for appearing to push the fourth official during their Premier League win over Burnley. Wenger was charged by the FA after he was sent to the stands by the referee for allegedly using abusive or insulting language towards a fourth official, Anthony Taylor, after an injury time penalty was awarded to Burnley. Wenger reacted angrily after Burnley were awarded a 93rd minute penalty at the Emirates Stadium, one they scored to level at 1-1. He was sent to the stands by referee John Moss, but stood in the tunnel entrance and refused to move as he tried to watch the remainder of the game. Taylor appeared to encourage Wenger to move away, but the Frenchman was seen pushing back against him. Arsenal snatched a winner at the death when they were awarded a penalty of their own, which was converted by Alexis Sanchez. Arsenal travelled to face Southampton in the fourth round of the FA Cup before they host Watford in the Premier League 3 days later. Jamaican sprinter Usain Bolt says it is rough losing one of his 9 Olympic gold medals after relay teammate Nesta Carter was found guilty of doping at the 2008 Beijing Olympics. Carter was found in the retest of his sample to have taken the banned stimulant methoxylamine, meaning the entire Jamaican relay team had to return their gold medals. The Trinidad and Tobago team finished second at Beijing in 2008, Japan third and Brazil fourth. The loss of the 100 meters sprint relay medal leaves Bolt with 8 Olympic golds, but he does not think the ruling tarnishes his glittering career record. He is considered the greatest sprinter of all time, having won an unprecedented treble of consecutive Olympic golds in the 100 meters and 200 meters in 2008, 2012 and 2016. Veteran British actor Sir John Hurt, who was Oscar nominated for his star turn in The Elephant Man and his supporting role in Midnight Express, dies after a long battle with cancer. He was 77.
Hurt, who had starred in more than 200 films and television series over a career span in 6 decades, revealed in 2015 that he was suffering from early stages of pancreatic cancer and that he was receiving treatment. His death was confirmed to Reuters via email by Charles McDonald, a British-based representative for the actor's Los Angeles talent manager. Further details of the circumstances of his death were not immediately available. Hurt said at the time of his cancer diagnosis that he intended to continue working. He also recently starred in the Sundance TV crime series The Last Panthers and in the Oscar-nominated film Jackie, playing a priest who consoled the newly widowed wife of slain U.S. President John F. Kennedy. Hurt, a native of Derbyshire in England, garnered his first Academy Award nomination for his supporting role as Max, an inmate who befriends the imprisoned drug smuggler Billy inside a Turkish jail in the gripping 1978 drama Midnight Express. He earned greater acclaim and an Oscar nomination as Best Lead Actor for his memorable portrayal of John Merrick, a grossly disfigured Victorian-era man struggling to project his humanity while enduring the indigenities of life as a sideshow freak. His roles in both Elephant Man and Midnight Express won him Britain's top film award, the BAFTA. He was bestowed an honorary BAFTA in 2012 for his outstanding contribution to cinema. Hurt also played a key role in the original 1979 science fiction thriller Alien. Other notable credits include supporting parts as a village doctor in Greece whose daughter falls in love with an Italian military officer during World War II in the 2001 film Captain Corelli's Mandolin, and as the eccentric wand maker Mr. Ollivander in the Harry Potter movie franchise.
And that's all we have for this hour. Thank you for watching. Wish you all a very pleasant night ahead.